Welcome to the Yukon in North 61. Sometimes 2 pounds 6 ounces is really sounds good. It's the Taiga 2-man Bivy. There's an automatic vent right there that's really well shielded, and there's some no-seam netting there. And there's also a vent at the foot. One of the pluses I can say, and this is a closable vent. It's got this little stick here that you can pop that open. You can also shut that down, but that's usually open. If it was snowing, you had spin drift, you close that. Because it's a breathable fabric, this really, never had any condensation. Even on the rare occasion when you got 2 people in here. It's got one little net here for you to put your gear in. And there's my feet over there. You can see the feet are right by the vent. You can close that vent. That vent right there is closable. This vent up here is not closable, so you could get spin drift through it. It's always open, but you can close this netting. So you do have room for your rifle over there. So this is not a bad shelter for sheep hunting. The other thing is, if you do get a snow load, or if you got water pooling, you can simply just push on it with your foot and send it going. But it's certainly a compromised shelter. Everything is taped. It's quite well built, and it's fairly inexpensive. So probably my least favorite thing about it is that you can't sit up in it, and when you enter and exit, if it's raining, you're going to get wet, and you're going to bring water in here. Also, that flat piece means you do get pooling. So it's a very specialized shelter, but for 2 pounds 3 ounces, it's certainly way more comfortable than a bivy. It's not quite like being in a coffin. And as long as you don't have 2 people, I did this, I was in here with my son one time, and God, he was only about 11 at that time, and it was way too crowded. But you know, it felt like we were, every time you'd move around, you'd wake the other guy up. So it is a bit of a problem unless it's somebody you're used to sleeping right next to.
It's okay.
Lots of length, eh?
Yeah.
Now what about having another person in there with you?
Well, you know, if
Only really if you're going to share a sleeping bag.
oh yeah, the double sleeping bag.
Yeah, if you had a double sleeping bag, or even if you used the sleeping bag like a quilt. Like my big Western mountaineering that's quite wide.
That's true.
You could use that like a quilt, a 2-person quilt. And then you've only got 2 pounds of you got 2 pounds of tent and 2 pounds of sleeping bag.
No, that's impressive.
So you're down to 4 pounds with the big 2. But we'd have to be getting along.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's look at it from some different angles. It's thing I like about it, because it's breathable. Even if you touch the fabric, you don't typically get damp. It's an interesting thing. It's made in Canada. They've stopped making them till 2022, so you can't buy this tent right now. But if you go to the Taiga website, it talks about it a little bit. Pretty good in a wind because it's so small, and the other thing it's good at is you can pitch it damn near anywhere on a really small piece. Sometimes you got to be fairly creative to pitch it out, because you can't always sink your your pegs in just anything. Sometimes it's really rocky, gravelly ground, so sometimes you gotta figure out how to use rocks and all sorts of stuff. And bringing a bit of string is probably good. All right, a Canadian version of a one-hooped tent with some good features, but it's certainly not a all-purpose tent.
Hello, here we are in the Bivy.
That wouldn't be so bad.
That's okay.
You know, actually it'd be pretty good to sleep if you're sharing a sleep bag.
Yeah.
If you're caught in bad weather, it would be terrible.
Yes.
But for like a quick day trip or as an emergency shelter, it's got some real advantages.
Yep.
1 to 10, how easy was that tent to put up, Sonny?
I'd say somewhere around 8 or 9.
Yeah. And we haven't even really learned it quite yet, but it's nice. Hope we don't fart too much because not much room in there. 2-man bivvy. All right, here we go.